This is a Death to Normie Party review of the greatest movie ever made. And by that I mean the My Little Pony movie. This is what you've been waiting for. There's this time when the autism is going to be taken up to 11. We're going to talk about Julius Evola. We're going to talk about LARP. We're going to talk about 2D women versus 3D women. And we're going to reach the ultimate height of the bizarre, autistic, and strange. We're going to have a completely normal reaction review where I just talk about it, not in character at all. Because the only thing that can get more crazy than crazy is normal. So, the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, the movie. Why did I go see it? Well, I just thought it would be funny. First of all, I mean, it is funny. The fact that I went and actually saw the movie because to do a joke for my YouTube channel is in itself, I think, pretty humorous. So we have that aspect to it. Also, I just wanted to see the kind of people that were there. Like, were Brody's going to show up in force? What was going to happen? I was just curious. And number 3, I was just curious about the movie. This TV show's been around for a long time. It's been a while since I've seen a kids movie. I was just kind of in the mood to watch a cartoon movie for kids. I mean, they're occasionally, I don't watch them all the time, but Disney movies can be fun. I enjoyed Frozen. That's about it for the last couple of years. Most Pixar movies are pretty good, so I just figured, why not go see it? So I went to see the movie, and what did I think about it? It was pretty good. It wasn't great or anything, but just we'll get into the whole brony thing in a second. But as a movie, it's your pretty typical, this is our first movie thing, where they basically just make an extended episode of the TV show. And it's not really, it feels like a 2-part episode or something. It's nothing really special. They didn't really put that much effort into it. They just made a bigger budget, bigger version of an episode. And that's pretty much how all of these things come across. There's like, you had this all the time during the 90s and early 2000s. Like Doug, the first movie, Pokemon, the first movie. I'm trying to think. Forget if Angela Anaconda had a movie, but like all these just, even if it was like some shitty cartoon that no one had ever heard of, it got a movie. Everything was getting a movie during the 2000s and 1990s, and this got one very similar, and we haven't kind of had one of these for a while. And I think that's kind of the whole show, and the whole thing is very much a throwback, I think, in a lot of ways, to what I'd call the kind of the golden age of Western animation. Back when you had like Justice League, and you had Teen Titans, and you had just a lot of creative shows. I think back in the day, they were more willing to just take a chance. To give a show a season or 2 to try to get its legs off, see what they could do with it, and if it didn't work out, oh well. We haven't had many Western animated shows. This is really the last one that still has any kind of legs. Everything else basically got canceled. And I always just find them interesting in comparing it to anime, just because there is a very different, I guess, kind of creative spark there. So it was pretty much your typical, like I said, first movie. Nothing like too bad, nothing too good. Solid 7 out of 10. Just looking at it, like I said, without bringing any of the ponies or anything, or the backstory, I enjoyed it. Like I said, nothing special, nothing bad. It was a good kids movie. It's not like a golden age, a Disney Renaissance film like Beauty and the Beast or Hunchback of Notre Dame, and I guess this is where I get into my thoughts on the series, my unironic thoughts on My Little Pony as a series. So when I first heard about it, I was like, they're talking about bronies, because I had some friends from high school who became bronies. And I was just like, this is the most retarded thing I've ever heard. What the fuck is this about? Why do we have these grown men watching this show? And it's not even something that's kind of like aimed at teenagers, like, I don't know, Teen Titans or Justice League or something. That's kind of aimed towards older comic book fans. But it was just, it was very obviously a kid's show, like for little kids. And I was just going, why? So I didn't look at it. The whole thing kind of pissed me off. I was just like, this is stupid, etc. And then a couple years later, when I was unemployed, I was like, well, maybe I'll try watching some, just out of curiosity. So I watched season 1 and season 2, and you know what? It's a pretty good show. I'm not gonna lie, it's not bad. I mean, it's good for what it is, and what it is a wholesome show about friendship and cuteness and that kind of thing. And I can understand the appeal of the show. The appeal of the show is, I think Auntie Dem put it in a slightly creepy but largely accurate way. The characters are just nice girls. They're just kind of like girls who aren't really tainted by feminism or anything. And it's nice to see something kind of wholesome. Like, they get into arguments, they get into trouble, but by and large they all still love each other and they all still care about each other at the end of the day. It's just very uncynical, very like I said, there's not really any left-wing political messages in it. They don't no one acts like a sociopath. They kind of just act like nice, normal people. And I think to a certain extent, having to deal with like just feminist women, having to deal with just kind of the bizarre way that the world is, seeing something fairly normal, even if it's in the form of ponies with magic, I think does appeal to a lot of people's kind of natural sense. And that's kind of the way a lot of, I think, anime appeals to people, because most anime doesn't really have a political message in it. It's just kind of trying to tell a story. Like Yu-Gi-Oh! Is just a story about friendship. It's not really trying to make a political point. And at the end of the day, what My Little Pony Friendship is Magic is it's just a show about friendship. Which, I mean, you can like it or take it. I don't really think you can say the show itself is degenerate or like bad for kids or anything. It's much better than like most stuff that's out there. The issue, how to frame it, the issue with bronies is not that they saw the show and liked it. So I think you can see things and like it regardless of what the age group it's for. The show has a lot of artistic merits, I think, which is a weird thing to say, but it is very well animated. The characters are well developed. The jokes are good. The script is good. The characters go through like defined arcs. It's generally speaking a well-made, well put together show. So I think what happens with the older fans is a lot of them are just so burnt out. They probably are, if they're not cucks, they've been cucked by, I don't know, the school system, by women. Maybe they were raised in a single parent household. Maybe they haven't been able to get a job for any number of reasons. It's largely a white phenomenon. I don't even see very many Asian bronies, to be honest, but they've just been beaten down, and they kind of find this thing that's kind of pure, that's just kind of cute, innocent entertainment, and they just kind of cling to it. It kind of represents, I think, to them, the kind of world they would probably like. Like I said, they just act like kind of nice girls. I understand they're ponies. I'm not trying to sexualize them. I'm just saying personality-wise. And they act a bit more like, I guess, kind of how men prefer women. So even if it's not necessarily sexual, and I think for the vast majority of people it isn't, there is that, I kind of guess, itch it, scratch it, the emotional need. It kind of is used to kind of plug the emotional hole that having to deal with, well, I call them post-women, having to deal with post-women and society in general as a white male leaves. So I think people kind of latch on to it, and it's kind of become a bit of a secular religion, because you just have all these people with similar, I think, issues, who have been through similar things, and they've started to kind of come together, and like any kind of like subculture, they realize, oh, we got all this other stuff in common. We like all these other things, so we're gonna be friends now, and we're gonna hang out, and we're gonna dress up like ponies and shit. And to a certain extent, it's kind of admirable. It is people trying to reach out. It's people trying to stop being so atomized. They have a common interest. You may not like the common interest, but it is them trying to kind of form their own subculture. Because, I mean, you can call them autists and neats, but they at least get out of their houses and meet up with each other, and they have, like, IRL friends and stuff. The issue is, well, it's made for children. And that's kind of the problem. I'm trying to be very fair here, and I'm trying to, like, not just dismiss them like a lot of people do. I think that's something I try to do with my channel, is to give credit to things. Like, I did that in my Animorphs review, where I tried to say, okay, let's take this and let's treat it seriously, and let's try to judge it on its own merits, and how kind of to get into the headspace of what the people are. It's very easy to just go, screw the bronies, they're a bunch of degenerate faggots, fuck them. And I do understand the reaction to it, but I also kind of feel, in many cases, when you have people who aren't bad people, but they're kind of disordered, you kind of have to help them get to their, you have to help them to their feet, if they're kind of on their knees, if to quote Tywin Lannister. And I don't think bronies are bad people. They might not even necessarily be degenerate people, they're just lost souls. They're lost souls who need Jesus, they need a community, etc. And in doing that, they have found something that's innocent, that's kind of, for lack of a better term, pure, and they've latched onto it. And it's not what they should be latching onto, but it's all they can really find. So that's kind of the issue. The issue is they're embodying something feminine, and not only just feminine, but youthfully feminine. It's the exact opposite of masculinity. Now, it kind of represents something masculinity would historically defend, but all the same, it is antithetical to masculinity, and it has kind of crossed over because of the people involved. Like I said, you have these like autistic basement dwelling neats, and they make up a substantial amount of the alt-right and the alt-left, or Antifa. So you have this strange scenario where you have like My Little Nationalist Pony, you have a lot of people in the extreme right who have kind of taken it on, and people on the extreme left who have taken it on. And it's just a very odd situation that kind of defies explanation. But as I've said, I think the SJW and the alt-right basically are the same thing. They just come to the opposite conclusions. I think they both see the same problems with the world. They have the same kind of hole in their life. One just turns to rejecting it, and the other turns to not only embracing it, but saying the problem is it doesn't go far enough. So I would say that's kind of the difference between the two of them, but there's a lot of overlap within the brony community, etc. So people are going to say, Argent, you're super, super sympathetic to them. No, I'm just trying to be honest. I'm trying to do a counterpoint. Because most people would just shit on them and just attack them. And I think the degenerate aspects, the carrying stuffed animals around in public, the dressing up with like the Rainbow Dash t-shirts, the calling each other every pony, all that stuff is gay as fuck. Don't get me wrong. That stuff is something that, like, it's not something an adult male should be doing unironically. So, like, I don't think it's bad to like the show. I don't think it's bad to watch the show or talk about the show. But when it turns into a subculture, particularly when it turns into a subculture that you identify so strongly with, we have a problem. We have a really, really big problem. And yeah, that's kind of the thing. So, do I understand? So, I guess just in summary, do I understand where it's coming from? Yes. Do I sympathize with them? Yes. Do I think it's healthy? I think that's a mixed bag. Do I approve of it? No, because it's just, there's better ways of dealing with it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having a subculture based around a TV show, but at the end of the day, it has to be, I don't know, something at least somewhat masculine. At the end of the day, you have to realize that there's no God but God, and his soul incarnation is Jesus Christ. And I think if people would bring their love for purity, their need to embrace something, that they would come into, I don't know, traditionalism or Christianity or something like that. They can still like the show, but I don't know. Trade in the brony ears for mantillas. Trade in BronyCon for, I don't know, pilgrimages. I don't know. It's just, like, I think Comic-Con's one thing, because comics are made to appeal to, like, everybody, and they have lots of mature themes. Same thing with video games. Video games are for kids, they're for adults, they're for everybody. My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, even if it is made in part to appeal to adults. It's a kid's show, and in particular, it's a kid's show for little girls. So no, you shouldn't be dressing like it in public, but I understand where it comes from. The actual show, I have no issue with the show. The show's wholesome. All it is just a show to teach kids about friendship. It doesn't really have much political correctness. It doesn't have a political agenda. Like I said, it's just a bunch of nice girls with conflicting personalities who have ponies and magic and stuff, having adventures. Nothing wrong with that. Good wholesome entertainment, good wholesome fun. Just don't dress up like a fucking degenerate and pretend you're Rainbow Dash if you're an adult male. That's all I gotta say. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll talk to you guys later.